Hello friends, welcome back to Heartscapes. My name is Michaela. I live in the territories of the Nisenan Maidu people and the Patwin people here in Davis, California, Central California. I live on a relatively average sized suburban lot, and over the past 10 years have developed it into what I think can reasonably be called an urban homestead or a suburban homestead. I do my best to grow and raise as much of my food as I can here. And again, the garden itself, the way in which we craft the spaces here, the way in which we interact with the life here, let it lead us, let it teach us, is very much part and parcel of what we do here at Heartscapes. So tonight, as I'm sitting here watching the sunset, just enjoying a really lovely springtime evening, I just wanted to invite you in and let you know a little bit about what we've been up to. Okay, so what I wanted to do tonight, with the little bit of light that I have left, the sun is just setting over there, is I wanted to show you some of the infrastructure projects that we did over the fall and the winter. Oftentimes when I talk about the garden, I do like to link it back to principles and learnings and teachings within the system of Reiki. And for me, infrastructure building, projects that help to lay a good groundwork for the work that we'll be doing in the garden, are very much a first diamond hara sort of activity. I've made videos about the three diamonds energy system that's active in the system of Reiki from its Japanese origins. But in short, the first diamond in the low belly, our energy center that is connected to the earth, that is connected to our physical body, that's connected to our needs for safety and structure and foundation. And it's really all about building that strong, firm foundation on which to build our spiritual practice and to build our life. In the garden, we can follow that same principle. We have to have a good, strong foundation before we can have a fertile and lush garden. At least if we want to have any sort of management at all of that space. So for me, the time to do that best is in the fall and in the winter, when the main crops have moved past, when the temperatures are starting to come down from the triple-digit temperatures we often get here in the summer. And it's the time of slowing down. It's the time of soil building. It's the time when I build my compost for the year. And it's a great time to do infrastructure projects. We did quite a few of them this past fall and winter and into early spring. And to be perfectly honest, I'm really proud of them. I really got some things done that had been on my mind for a long time. Changes that have really given a sense of beauty and a sense of settledness, a sense of structure to the garden that it was missing in certain areas, and has already been beneficial to the plants that I've been putting in this spring. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour of that infrastructure in this video. We're actually sitting inside of one of them right now, but I'm going to save the best for last, and we're going to circle back to this one at the end. Okay, for now, let's head to the backyard. All right, we have traveled to the back of the house. We started off in the front of the house. A little bit more about the infrastructure that we're starting with here. As I said, we're on a suburban lot, 1954 house. And one of the benefits of having an older neighborhood is that the lot is a decent size for a suburban lot. We've got a decent sized backyard, a decent sized front yard. And every little piece of this space that I can possibly cram a plant or something amazing in, I am working on doing that. That is the goal anyway. We raise chickens here for eggs and for meat. We raise rabbits for the manure that they provide to fertilize the garden. And we raise bees and quite a few cats running around as well. So the first project that I wanted to talk to you about is having to do with our friends, the bees here. I've been attempting to learn to beekeep for, this is going on my third year. And let me tell you, there's a serious learning curve on beekeeping. And one of the unexpected parts of that learning curve for me was realizing that conventional beekeeping, which is heavily reliant on chemical pesticides to control mites and other pests, and in very artificially structured beehives that are easy to manage from a beekeeper's perspective, but not supportive of the bees' lifestyle and health. That style of beekeeping is just not in alignment with my values. I don't want to keep an animal that where I'm required to regularly dose them with chemical pesticides. That just doesn't feel good to me. And I just about gave up beekeeping after the first couple of years, as I was struggling to manage mites and things like that with minimal chemical intervention. And then I found the whole wide world of treatment-free beekeeping or natural beekeeping. This is basically hearkening back to the way it had been forever and ever and ever and ever before modern times, when mechanization and chemical infrastructure really became the norm. Of course, bees have survived for a long time without the needs for such things. And even though they are under more pressure here in the United States, it's a very different climate than the European areas that the honeybee comes from. They certainly can and do adapt to our areas, and are able to live and to thrive without those kinds of interventions. It does take time. It takes a different style of beekeeping, a different style of management, largely a style that involves leaving them alone a lot more than conventional beekeeping. And it requires a different style of beehive. So what I have here, just turn you around here, is a experimental beehive that I built in the fall. This is a hybrid beehive. There are so many different styles of beehive that I want to try. Try not to get too carried away, and just kind of work with one at a time. You can see the ladies coming in and out there. They're starting to come home for the evening, get themselves tucked into bed. But this beehive is as I said, it's a hybrid between natural beekeeping styles that basically mimic a hollow log, which is a natural environment for bees, and the conventional Langstroth hive, which is essentially a square box with frames that the bees build their honeycomb upon. The Langstroth hive, again, is very convenient for the beekeeper, but it creates a lot of problems for the bees. For example, it is not insulated, so it requires a lot of their energy to regulate temperature, as opposed to a hollow log, which is incredibly insulated and basically stays a very similar temperature inside year round. They have to spend much less energy regulating temperature. Moisture is better regulated inside of a log as opposed to a thin-walled wooden box. And the ecosystem that develops in a natural space is multi-layered, right? A lot of conventional beekeeping involves reducing down the life forms inside of the beehive to just the bees, similar to conventional agriculture, which has a monocropped system where you just have the one plant that you want to grow. You don't have an ecosystem of a variety of plants as you would in a natural space. So if we look at natural beekeeping, it's somewhat analogous to permaculture gardening or permaculture farming, where you're doing your best to create a natural biodiverse ecosystem, still within a structure that you can manage to a certain degree, if your goal is to get honey, which certainly I would like to get honey. So with this hive, let me actually pick you up here. Take a look at it from this side. Turn you around. Okay. So as you can see, we have a variety of boxes, and from the outside it looks quite a bit like your typical Langstroth hive. But inside of these boxes, it's a very different story. Inside of these two here are sealed together. And inside of there is an insert that was created by a fellow natural beekeeper named Barry, and a rounded insert that recreates that rounded hollow log space. And the space between that round insert and the edges of the box is heavily insulated. So again, recreating the idea of a nice, thick, walled hollow log. It's a nice open chamber for them that they get to build their comb in however they want to. And that chamber, I do not enter at all. That is their private sanctity. I do not go in there at all. I haven't looked in there for months, ever since these bees got established here. That is their space. Now, the hybrid is that this box is your typical Langstroth box. It has frames, it has, thin walls. It's your typical Langstroth box. The idea being that from that box, I can harvest some of the leftover honey that they make. Now, this group of bees is new. I just installed them about a month ago. And so I won't be harvesting honey from this this year. My sincere hope is that they're going to be set up well to survive the winter, to thrive over the winter, to come back strong next spring. And next year, if all goes well, I'll be able to harvest honey. But for now, they have to build up that infrastructure. The bottom box down there is what's called an eco floor. So that is a hollowed out box with a solid bottom, and I've just kind of filled it with dried leaves and debris and sticks and just the sorts of stuff you'd have on the forest floor. And that again helps to develop that natural ecosystem where debris from the hive can fall down in there. It's a place for other insects to build habitat, specifically other insects that eat the mites that are so problematic for bees. The other thing that's important when you're natural beekeeping is to have bees develop what's called mite grooming habits, where they themselves aggressively go after the mites that grow in their egg cells and on their bodies. Take them off of themselves and toss them down into that eco floor where they get eaten by other creatures. So that's the bottom floor there. And then this top box is called a quilt box. And that again provides insulation at the top of the hive, and it provides moisture absorption, particularly important in the winter where you have a lot of moisture, especially around here. Our region is incredibly dry for most of the year. In the winters when we get our rain. And so managing moisture levels inside the hive is super important. And so that quilt box, it's got a screened bottom, and then it's filled with wood shavings, and the moisture rises upward and is absorbed by that material and then off gases through holes at the top of the box. So that baby was a project that I did in the fall. You might notice the really beautiful finish on that wood. That's a process called shosugi-ban, which is a process of burning and then sealing with oil woods to seal it and make it beautiful. My roommate Leaf does that process. We have a lot of different areas that have that process done, and I love it. It's a really beautiful and durable sort of finish. I'm very lucky in that my roommate is a pretty good hobby carpenter. So some of these projects that we'll be looking at, he had a hand in or was entirely responsible for. In this, we collaborated in the finishing of the boxes. I am so excited to see how this works out with my bees this year. Gosh, wish them well. Say a prayer for them. I have never gotten a group of bees through the winter. This is my first time trying it in this way, so hopefully it'll work out. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna just pivot you around and show you the next project on the list because it's right next to me. So here is this brief shot of some of the backyard garden. These strawberry towers here and here are from a company called Greenstock. The video on my channel that has by leaps and bounds the most views of any is actually a review that I did of this product comparing it to that other one over there, the garden tower. And some of you might have found my channel from that video. If so, welcome back. I still stand by my review. I still love my green stock, and I'm still very disappointed with that garden tower. I have a few other ideas for it. Maybe I'll bring you along for those. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to show you though. What I wanted to show you was these stone planters. 1, 2, 3. You'll see in the background there, that's my old Langstroth hive. Right now it's got some old honeycomb in it, and bees come and, you know, rob supplies out of it, which is perfectly fine. I might convert that one in a similar way eventually, but for right now it's just hanging out over there. So this whole area here, when we moved in, was a little bit of a lawn, and on the other side of this walkway was another lawn. And pretty much right away I converted this lawn into an herb bed, and as you can see, that herb bed is doing great. So this little piece of the garden is the oldest of what's currently here. It's been here thriving for a very long time. And the soil here is in great shape. It's been built up over time. It's just thriving. It's great. We kept the lawn over here for quite a while. And eventually I started taking up the lawn and doing veggies here. But that soil was in very poor shape. We have very clay, very dense soil. We have, again, a very hot, dry area. I hadn't been watering that grass because we're in a drought area. So that soil was just in very poor condition. And even when you add compost and, let me turn you around, talk to you this way. So even when you add compost and, you know, amend soil, if it's in really bad shape like that, or if it's just raw, you haven't done anything to it before, it takes a good 3 years of consistent nourishment of that soil for it to really build the biodiversity and the soil structure to be a healthy, good plot. You hear those banging sounds over there. That's my chickens jumping into their roosts for bed. So this is now the 3rd year on these plots, and I decided to give them a little bit of a boost, literally a boost, to bring them up off the ground a little bit more, because it was just really, really struggling with the soil the way that it was. I've tried different ways of making beds here. I used kind of that plastic bendy board to give a little bit of a rise, and that wasn't deep enough, and I just didn't like the plastic and the way that it looked. So I decided to invest in brick. I love the look of kind of cobblestone walls, and I like the way in which these particular types of bricks kind of duplicate that look of a cobblestoned wall. Now, when I say invest, in this case, what I mean is I invested time and sweat equity. Here, we're going to come over here and sit on this wall while we chat about it. Flip you around again. So, you know, things are either going to cost time or they're going to cost money, or both. And I do my very best to, you know, be resourceful with materials, to reuse things, repurpose, upcycle things as much as possible to save money and to save resources. So these stones, you know, often come up, you know, people wanting to give them away, pull them out of their garden, do something different. It's the sort of thing that's a really valuable commodity if you want it, but if you want it gone, it's a pain in the butt because they're really heavy bricks. So I just decided that I would spend my own time and energy to collect these bricks. So it took a long time. It took a number of months to post requests for these bricks, go out to people's houses, dig them out of people's gardens that they were remodeling, haul them back here, drag them to the backyard, stack them up. I mean, we're talking almost a ridiculous amount of sweat equity in this. But I love the way it turned out. I love the way it looks. I ended up with exactly the right number of bricks to do it, plus a few more to extend it back there. You can see just a single layer that I was able to extend back there. And it's really done the job of providing a nutritious, deep bed of soil that is really, really nutritious. And the plants that I planted here this spring are really thriving. I know this is an infrastructure garden tour, not a plant garden tour, but I'm just going to show you the plants here anyway. So this particular bed, we have eggplants, we have peppers, one big giant tomato over there on this little trellis. And then back there, of course, we've got some beautiful flowering plants in my junk pile. This bed, I put in this absolutely beautiful rose. This is the Tottering by Gently rose by David Austin. One that I had really wanted for a long time. I love the way she looks here. I love the way she looks surrounded by these Johnny Jump Ups and these snapdragons. Just really pleased with that. And then another flower bed there with asters and strawflower and a few sunflowers. So this remodel of this former weedy lawn was really a long time coming. It was a project that I had wanted to do for a long time, and that I am very pleased with. All right, let's see here. I think we've got one more back here real quick, and then we'll head back out to the front. So shifting from a project where I absolutely salvaged every piece of materials to one where I unapologetically just purchased the thing that I wanted because there was just no other way to get it the way that I wanted. My chickens got a new coop this year. So that little beauty back there is called the Igloo by a company called Omelette. It is adorable. It is all kinds of high tech and how it helps manage chickens. Got an automatic door, which absolutely improves my life. And it's just super cute. It works real well. These are the new babies for this spring. They're stinking adorable. They're about half grown now. Yeah, and I love them. All right, that one is a quickie. I do recommend this product. If you have questions about it, let me know. Yeah, I'll put the link to it down below. You can check it out. Hashtag not sponsored. All right, now we're gonna head back to the front. Nope, just kidding. If we're gonna talk about animal infrastructure, there is one more back here I gotta show you. So where we just looked at, where the chickens are, that used to be my rabbit cage. And for a variety of reasons, it did not end up working. They lived there for about 3 or 4 years. It worked really well for some ways, really not well in others. Eventually, I decided to move them to a different structure, let the chickens have that one. So I'm going to show you their new home. It's right here. So we ended up going with what I'd always wanted to avoid, which is kind of your classic rabbit hutch. Generally, rabbit hutches are just not big enough to give them the spaciousness they need, various other issues. But I decided to put 2 of them in, get this really adorable tunnel between the 2, which they love. Eventually, I'm going to add a 3rd one around the corner over there so that they've got another space. And they do get yard time, so they do get to come out of here. They actually seem to be liking it quite well. And it's solved the problems that I was having with the other setup. The rabbits are probably napping in the tunnel right now, which is why we don't see them. We've got 3 little buns, and this is their new home. Like I said, I intend to expand this by at least 1 more hutch so they have more space, but in the meantime, we give them the yard time. They seem to enjoy it. It's working out pretty well. Okay, now we go to the front.